Welcome to the second lesson in my series Simple Watercolor. My name is Simone Ritter and I am introducing you to a very simple method of painting with watercolors using the three primary colors: Hansa Yellow Light, we use a Red Rose Deep from Da Vinci, and a Phthalo Blue. And we use one Chinese watercolor brush, and I talked about this in the previous lesson. Now we move on to lesson 2. Now that you have all your equipment out and you know what it's about, it's time to do our first painting. It's exercises, but it is painting. We have to mix the color. Watercolor and oil and acrylic, if you only have the three primaries, we have to mix a lot. It's a little bit daunting in the beginning if you say, oh my goodness, I don't know how to mix certain colors, but it's also very liberating once you jump that hurdle and you say, you know what, I just give it a shot, I can give it a shot, I try it, and if it doesn't work, well, I wash my brush and it's fine. What can go wrong? The worst thing that can happen is that you mess up a piece of paper, but so what? I have messed up thousands of pieces of paper. So, but what we have to learn, and what I find is a big stumbling block in the for beginner watercolorists, is to mix the proper lights and the proper shadow colors of the object. And therefore I want to explain a little bit first. Here, let's just use a shape. It is a sweet pepper, and the main color is orange. And what I like about a pepper is it has the same color throughout. So it's a simple, where we are really in the beginning have many questions with mixing, so at least we can stick for the shape, for the object, with one color. And in my next lesson we will start painting a pepper, and we will learn to mix the proper values for the pepper. But when you look at any object in the room or in nature or whatever, there's a light source. Usually it is during the daytime, it's the sun, and at night it is either the moon or it's a street light or something. But if we see it, it's illuminated by something, something shines on it. And in my case, I have here a lamp positioned, and it hits this pepper here. So what we see, the pepper is lighter here than it is, just let me switch this off, than it is here. But it is the same orange. It is the same orange throughout, right? But it just looks lighter here than it does here. And for us, we have to train our eyes to not paint with our brain, where we think, oh, it's an orange pepper and I just paint the pepper. We have to train our eyes and have to trust our eyes that we paint what we see, not what we think. And many beginners, in the beginning, they paint what they think they see, but not what they really see. So, painting is a creative endeavor. Shut your thinking brain off and just let in this case, do your eyes do the work. So when I look at this pepper, it is orange throughout. I see this, fine. And if you're colorblind, it might look a little bit different, but don't stress it. You just paint the color that you see. And then it has a lighter side where the light source hits it, and it has usually a darker side on the opposite side of where it's shown upon. So here we got it. It's the pepper, light and dark. And for us, what we have to learn, and what we will learn, is to use our three primary colors and first mix the base color, the base orange for this object, and then we can paint lighter for here, and we can use this mixture, the base color, and make it darker for this side, for the shade side. And when we just accept for what it is and trust our eyes and give them permission to inform our brain, yeah, it is not the same orange throughout, but just we paint what we see. And therefore I have a little painting made up here, a picture, and that is a sheet of watercolor paper. And I don't know if you can see this here. It has numbers on the side. You see. And it's not really that we need numbers, but it helps me to explain things. So I have numbers from 10 going down to 0. And 5 is the regular color of our item or of whatever we paint at an overcast day. So it doesn't have shadow, it's just the color, the real color of the object. And usually I will call this a value 5. And of course you have black things, and the value 5 from a black item is very dark. Or you can have, let's say, a bright, very light colored shirt that someone is wearing. And so the value 5 would be almost white. But it is fine. It is what the item looks like at an overcast day, where it's not the spot where things shine on it, but also not the space where it's the absence of light, where it's the dark, the shadow side. So value 5 can be, or is always, the regular color of the item. Now, if the sun hits it, let's pretend it's a sun or a light object, a lamp, then obviously this base color, the basic color, in our case the orange pepper, will not be the regular orange, but it will be lighter or even lighter. And then on the opposite side, where the light source is absent, where it creates a shadow, the same orange will appear to our eyes darker. So we will learn to utilize the other pigments, more of them, and make a thicker mix to create those lower values. And if I say, for instance, something is a 10, it means it's the absence of pigment. It's the pure light. There's no color there left anymore. And if I say it's a value 0, that means that the paper here reflects 0 white back. It's like the absence of light. Here it's complete light, and here it's the absence of light. Most in life things are kind of in between. When I just can go back to our pepper here, and I hold it here like this, what I would see is a 10. It's where there is no pigment on the pepper. It's exactly where this light source hits it. I call it the kissing spot here. I wouldn't paint anything. I just leave those white. That would be the paper. White is the paper in this case. If you paint an oil or acrylic, white comes from a tube, and you will just use the tube white, or just use a little bit of pigment, just a tiny smidge. White is kind of you usually don't just use tube white in very most cases. Anyways, here it is. These are just things in watercolor painting I will leave white. And some watercolor painters that have very detailed or specific spots, they want to make sure that nothing goes in it. You can get some masking fluid. It's kind of a rubbery liquid, and you put it on your paper and you let it dry, you let it set in, and then you can throw whatever pigment over it, and then afterwards you're done. You just take a little bristly thing or rubber cement, and you pick it up and then it preserves the white on the paper. I myself try not to use that, it's too complicated, and it kind of looks a little bit stark. But if you have a specific spot where you say, I must make sure, then, well, there are help out there. So now let's start mixing up some color, and I have to just put this up again, and I also have to adjust my camera here like that, so we can do this together. And I just bring it closer up. Oops. Here we go. I think that looks about right. Okay, here is my portfolio that we prepped in the previous lesson. That's my piece of paper, and I just switch on my light again. And let's just bring this down a bit. There. Okay, so here 10 and here 0. We start with number 5. And I will use a Chinese hairbrush. I just dip it in my water here, and I stroke it off as such, and then it forms a nice tip like this, and I dry off the excess here on my towel and on my paper roll, toilet paper roll. So now, because well, let's say start simple, start with a red. We are gonna work on a red bar as such. So we use the wet brush and pick up a little bit of that red pigment, and we put it on the palette. Use a little bit more, such as this, and then I paint a little bit more. And now I see that not just the tip of my brush, I don't know if you can see this, it's not just the tip of my brush that is loaded, but it's about halfway through with a mix of pigment and water, and then the rest of the belly here in the back, this is basically just water. So this is fine. Now I take the paper, I will paint my number 5. And what I do is, about halfway up the paper, I paint a bar. And we will create kind of little squares or units. You can make them rectangles or whatever. And we will do value 5, 3, 1, and 0. Okay, so we will do number 5. Here will be number 3, same size again. Number 1, 3 size again, same size, and then the very lowest is value 0. And what I do, all are kind of the same size, and I just fill this in. So it's got some white little spots. I like them. They kind of look happy